In the gardening world, heirloom refers to plant varieties that have been passed down through multiple generations, often over 50 years or more. These seeds are open pollinated, meaning they rely on natural processes such as wind, insects, or birds for pollination. Heirlooms are prized for their unique characteristics, including diverse flavors, colors, and shapes, which are often not found in commercially bred hybrids. They also have a strong connection to cultural and family histories, with many varieties being named after the families or regions where they originated. The practice of saving and passing down heirloom seeds dates back centuries, with each generation selecting seeds from the best plants to preserve desirable traits. The Green Revolution and the development of hybrid seeds led to a decline in heirloom varieties, but there's been a resurgence of interest in recent decades, driven by concerns about biodiversity, sustainability, and preserving culinary heritage. Heirloom varieties are hard to find in your local nursery or garden center, but luckily, they are easy to grow from seed. Start with heirloom seeds from a reliable source. Seed catalogs, seed swaps, and local gardeners or farmers are good places to find authentic heirloom seeds. Starting seeds in cell packs and thinning them is a common and efficient method for raising seedlings. This technique allows for better control over the growing conditions and helps ensure strong, healthy plants. It's important to use moistened seed starting mix. I sow them about 3 to 5 per cell, sprinkling them on top of the potting medium, then cover with about 1/4 inch of the mix so they are secure. I've been successfully using my compost for seed starting this year, and I'm quite pleased with results. It's a big cost savings. I cover the seeds with a light layer of vermiculite. This helps to retain moisture yet prevent the growth of algae. I water the seeds gently with a fine mist to avoid displacing them, making sure the soil is evenly moist, watering from below if necessary. Then I use a humidity dome to create a mini greenhouse effect. This helps retain moisture and warmth. I remove the domes once the seeds have sprouted. Then place the cell packs in a location with bright, indirect light. If using grow lights indoors, keep them about 2 to 4 inches above the seedlings to encourage strong, compact growth. I was delighted to have the new greenhouse this year for spring seed starting. Thinning is the process of removing some seedlings to give the remaining ones enough space to grow strong and healthy, and it's time to start thinning seedlings once they have developed their first true leaves. This is the second set of leaves after the initial seed leaves, or cotyledons. This is usually 1 to 2 weeks after germination. You can either pinch or cut the plants, using a small pair of scissors or your fingers to snip or pinch off the weaker seedlings at soil level. Personally, I have a hard time destroying seedlings, so I remove the seedlings, separate them gently, and transplant them into new cell packs. I often give these away to friends and family. Continue to care for the seedlings by providing adequate light, water, nutrients, and the proper temperature. Not too hot, not too cold. Around 70 degrees is ideal. Water the seedlings carefully, avoiding overwatering, which can lead to diseases such as damping off. I usually start feeding them with an organic liquid fertilizer every couple of weeks to promote healthy growth until they are ready for the garden. Heirloom plants generally thrive in a well-drained soil. Organic matter, such as compost or leaf mold, can improve soil structure and fertility. When transplanting into the garden, it's beneficial to plant them deeply because they can develop roots along their buried stems. I plant them so that at least half of the stem is buried, removing any leaves along the lower part, leaving only the top few sets of leaves above the soil. I apply a layer of organic mulch, such as straw, leaf mold, grass clippings, even wood chips, around the base of the plants. Mulch helps retain soil moisture, suppresses weeds, and maintains a more consistent soil temperature. And this is important for tomatoes because too much water uptake will cause them to split. I use stakes, cages, or trellises to support the plants. This keeps the plants off the ground, reducing disease risk and making harvesting easier. When possible, I provide consistent moisture, especially during the early stages of growth and fruit development. Careful to water at the base of the plants, minimizing water splashing on the leaves, which can spread disease. I water deeply and less frequently to encourage deep root growth. The frequency will depend on the weather conditions and soil type, but generally 1 to 2 inches of water per week is sufficient for most vegetables. I continue to feed the plants with organic fertilizers throughout the growing season, using a balanced fertilizer or one higher in phosphorus and potassium to support flowering and fruiting. Compost tea, fish emulsion, or other liquid organic fertilizers can be applied every 2 to 4 weeks. Heirloom tomatoes are valued for their wide range of flavors, colors, and shapes, and saving seeds allows us to preserve these unique varieties year after year. Since heirloom tomatoes are open-pollinated, the seeds will grow true to type, meaning the offspring will have the same characteristics as the parent plant. While tomatoes are predominantly self-pollinating, meaning they usually fertilize themselves, cross-pollination can occur, especially when different varieties are grown close together. Using a mesh bag to isolate specific flowers is a common and effective practice among gardeners who want to ensure the purity of their heirloom varieties. This method helps prevent accidental cross-pollination by creating a physical barrier that keeps out insects and prevents pollen from other tomato plants from reaching the isolated flowers. I observe the plants for part of the growing season first, and then I choose those that exhibit the traits I want to preserve, such as flavor, size, and disease resistance. I then place the mesh bag over the flower clusters before the flowers open. This ensures that no outside pollen can reach the flowers when they start to bloom. Once the flowers have set fruit, you can see little tiny tomatoes forming. You can remove the mesh bag. At this point, cross-pollination is no longer a concern for that flower cluster as the fertilization process is complete. Then we continue caring for the plants until the fruit are ripe and ready to go. In general, I harvest heirloom tomatoes before they are ripe. This is helpful to prevent any pest or disease issues and to prevent splitting after heavy rains. For saving seeds, the tomatoes need to be very ripe, so I leave them on the counter until they're ready. I cut open the tomatoes and scoop out the seeds and the surrounding gelatinous material into a container. The gel around the seeds contains inhibitors that typically prevent the seeds from germinating inside the tomatoes, so it needs to be removed before saving. Then let the mixture sit at room temperature for 2 to 4 days. During this time, the fermentation process will break down the gel. Stir the mixture now and then to promote even fermentation. I also cover them with a towel to keep out fruit flies. A layer of mold may form on the surface, and this is normal. After fermentation, I transfer the seeds to a fine mesh strainer. I use a forceful stream of water to remove the unwanted material. Then I spread the cleaned seeds on a paper towel, making sure they're not touching. I allow them to dry completely in a well-ventilated area away from direct sunlight. Move them around occasionally to ensure they dry evenly and to prevent them from clumping together. Drying may take several days depending on the humidity levels. Once the seeds are thoroughly dry, I use paper envelopes that I label with the tomato variety and the date of seed collection or any other relevant information. Heirloom seeds can typically remain viable for 4 to 10 years if stored under optimal conditions in a dark, dry place. I store these envelopes in a waterproof container. Over time, seed viability may decrease, so it's a good idea to perform germination tests before planting older seeds. Heirloom tomatoes are often prized for their rich and varied flavors, which are not typically found in commercially bred hybrids. Many heirloom tomato varieties are linked to specific regions, families, or cultural traditions. Some have been handed down through generations, carrying stories and traditions with them. Seed-saving initiatives, seed banks, and dedicated gardeners have helped preserve these valuable genetic resources. Saving seeds is a rewarding practice that offers economic, environmental, and personal benefits. It empowers gardeners to become more self-sufficient, it reduces costs, and it allows for the cultivation of plants that are well adapted to specific garden conditions and personal preferences, but also allows us to enjoy the rich flavors and unique characteristics of these cherished plants. Do you grow heirlooms in the garden? Let me know in the comments about your experience with heirlooms and any advice you'd like to share with me or others. Thanks for watching, and let me know any other interesting topics you'd like me to cover.